The rain poured relentlessly over the city of New York. Umbrellas bloomed like black flowers across the sidewalks, and taxis splashed water on the corners where people waited impatiently. Among them stood a man in his early 40s, soaked to the bone but seemingly unaware. In one hand, he held a leash, on the other end of it, a German shepherd stood alert and still, unfazed by the storm. His name was Jackson Miller, a graphic designer by profession, solitary by nature. He had long stopped expecting companionship from people. His parents had passed away in a car accident 10 years earlier, and since then, Jackson had built a wall around himself, brick by brick. That wall cracked only once, the day he brought home Milo. Milo was no ordinary dog. Found injured and abandoned behind Jackson's office building, he had whimpered only once when Jackson lifted him into his car. That whimper was the first sound that melted a decade's worth of isolation. Milo wasn't just a pet. He was family, therapist, and guardian, all in one furry package. For 5 years, Jackson and Milo were inseparable. Every morning began with Milo's cold nose nudging Jackson awake. They jogged together in Central Park, shared breakfast routines, and spent quiet evenings watching old movies. Where words failed Jackson, Milo understood. Where people had disappointed him, Milo stayed. But today, as they stood in the pouring rain, something shifted. A hunched figure sat alone on a park bench under the dim glow of a flickering street lamp. Jackson might have walked past him like everyone else, had it not been for Milo pulling gently at the leash. He turned back. The man was elderly, his coat threadbare and shoes soaked through. His eyes met Jackson's, and in them, Jackson saw not a stranger, but a reflection. Milo approached the man, tail wagging slowly. He sat beside him, pressing his body close for warmth. The man smiled, placing a frail hand on Milo's head. "He's kind," he whispered. Jackson hesitated before sitting on the bench beside them. "He's saved me more than once," he replied. The old man introduced himself as Richard. Once a literature professor, now homeless after years of medical bills and misfortune. They sat in silence, the rain softening to a drizzle. Jackson went home that night with Richard's story echoing in his mind. He couldn't sleep. For the first time in years, he felt a pull, an ache, for someone else's suffering. The next day, he returned to the park with a hot meal, a blanket, and a thermos of coffee. Richard was still there. And the day after that. And the day after. In the following weeks, Jackson's visits became routine. He brought books for Richard, took Milo along, and listened, truly listened. Each story Richard shared peeled back layers of Jackson's own guarded heart. One evening, Richard didn't show up. Concerned, Jackson asked around. A nearby vendor told him Richard had been taken to a hospital after collapsing from pneumonia. Jackson visited him immediately. Sitting by his bedside, he realized how deeply he had come to care. Not just for Richard, but for people, something he thought he'd lost the ability to do. Richard recovered slowly. Jackson, now more involved than ever, helped him find a modest room in a local shelter and arranged a part-time position at a nearby library. As Richard's life regained stability, so did Jackson's soul. Touched by the experience, Jackson started a local initiative called Milo's Mission, named after the dog who started it all. The mission provided meals, warm clothes, and support to the city's homeless population. Volunteers joined. Donations poured in. Lives began to change. Years later, Milo passed away quietly, with Jackson holding him close, whispering thanks. A small plaque in the park now reads, "In memory of Milo, who reminded us all that even in silence, love speaks loudly." Jackson never felt alone again. He had learned that kindness is not about grand gestures. It's in the small moments, the silent companionship, and the decision to sit beside someone in the rain. And so, the man who once avoided the world now helped rebuild it, one act of compassion at a time. Because sometimes, it takes a dog to teach a man how to be human again.